My family ignored me for most of my life, but at Thanksgiving last year, I casually mentioned that I had a net worth of $160 million. My sister's jaw dropped, and my dad just stared at me in disbelief. I learned how to disappear when I was 9. That was the year my sister, Sophie, turned 18 and got her first car, a brand new BMW wrapped in a huge red bow sitting in our driveway. I remember watching from my bedroom window as she screamed with excitement, hugging our parents while the neighbors stopped by to congratulate them on raising such a wonderful daughter. No one noticed me standing there wearing a hand-me-down sweater and secondhand pants. Sophie had always been the golden child. She was 7 years older and came along when my parents were still young, motivated, and eager to raise the perfect daughter. By the time I was born, their enthusiasm had faded. I'm pretty sure I was an accident, not part of the plan. The baby book stopped after my first birthday, and the photo album stayed half empty. My parents owned a modestly successful insurance business in Connecticut. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, or at least Sophie was. She went to Westfield Academy, a private school that cost more than most people's cars. I went to Franklin Public, just 3 blocks away, where the ceiling tiles leaked when it rained, and the textbooks were older than I was. When I once asked why Sophie got to attend a private school and I didn't, my mom gave me a look like I'd asked why the sky was blue. Sophie needs more stimulation, sweetheart. She's gifted. You're doing just fine where you are. That word, fine, haunted me growing up. Sophie was exceptional, brilliant, destined for success. I was fine. For Sophie's 17th birthday, my parents took her to Paris. For mine, we shared a $30 grocery store cake. When my calculator broke before finals, I bought a used one myself instead of. At first, I didn't feel angry. I was too young to understand the imbalance. I thought that's how families worked, that some kids just deserved more. I accepted it until it became part of who I was. But that quiet acceptance came with something Sophie never developed: resourcefulness. While Sophie took French lessons and played violin, I taught myself to code using library books and free online courses. While she spent summers at expensive camps in the Adirondacks, I worked at a local grocery store and saved every dollar. When she was deciding between Ivy League schools, I was applying to state universities, hoping for scholarships. Eventually, I got into the University of Connecticut on a full academic scholarship. My parents took me to Applebee's to celebrate. When Sophie got accepted to Yale, "I'd like to expand it," Claire said. "You'll remain CEO and your entire team stays in place. We'll provide the funding and global infrastructure to help you scale. You'll keep your vision. We'll give you the tools to grow it beyond what's possible alone." I listened to her pitch for nearly 2 hours, and by the end, I knew this offer was different. The negotiations took 3 months, with both sides' lawyers debating every line. I fought hard for my team, ensuring they received generous retention bonuses and equity packages. When we finally reached an agreement of $280 million with every one of my conditions met, Claire smiled across the table. "You drive a tough bargain." I had also fought for creative freedom, the right to reject any decision that went against our core values. "I know my worth," I told her. "I've spent my whole life being underestimated, and I'm done with that." In the end, Innovix Technologies agreed to acquire SupplySync for $270 million, keeping it as an independent subsidiary. I would stay on as CEO, retaining full creative control while they provided the resources to scale globally. I couldn't turn it down. After further negotiation, The final deal closed at $310 million. Once taxes, legal fees, and employee bonuses were paid, I personally walked away with $160 million. I kept $25 million liquid and invested the rest through a diversified portfolio designed by my financial advisor. At 28, I had more wealth than I could ever need, and my family still had no idea. Sophie, meanwhile, had gotten engaged to Chase, a hedge fund manager. My father once suggested I apply for a position at his insurance firm, saying they could use someone good with computers. My mother occasionally asked if I was still doing that programming thing, as if it were a hobby. When my parents invited me to Sophie's engagement party, I attended, gave a 3 card from their registry, and left before the speeches even began. Sophie didn't realize I'd gone until the next morning. The Supply Sync acquisition officially closed that October, and by November, I'd settled into my new role at Innovix under a 5-year contract. With my finances secure, I began thinking about how to use my success meaningfully. I anonymously donated to my old public school, funding a full tech lab renovation and establishing scholarships for underprivileged students. I also bought my first true luxury, a beautiful home in Brooklyn overlooking the Charles River. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell anyone beyond my closest friends. As Thanksgiving approached, I decided to visit home for the first time in years. Not because I missed them, but because I realized something important. Their approval no longer mattered. I had spent years chasing recognition that I no longer. When I called my mother to confirm my visit, she sounded surprised. "Oh, that's lovely, honey. Sophie and Chase will be here too. Chase's parents might stop by. It'll be such a nice reunion." She paused, then asked, "You're still doing that computer stuff, right? Are you making enough to get by? Your father knows someone who might be hiring." I smiled. "I'm fine, Mom." "Really fine?" "Yes, really." "Good. See you Thursday." When I packed my suitcase, I included one special item, the folder containing the acquisition documents. I didn't plan to show it off, but it reminded me of everything I had achieved without their support. The drive to Connecticut felt different this time. Usually, I'd brace myself for the usual disappointment and invisibility. Instead, I enjoyed the fall colors, music playing softly, feeling a calm I hadn't known before. I kept thinking about something my therapist, Dr. Chen, had asked a week earlier. I'd been seeing her for 2 years to process the effects of growing up unseen. "Why do you want to go to Thanksgiving?" she asked. "What do you hope to gain?" I'd thought about it carefully before answering. I think I want to see if I still care. If their opinion still affects me, I know I have more work to do. But if it doesn't, I'd smiled, then I'm free. Dr. Chen had nodded. "Remember, Lily, freedom doesn't require their approval. You don't have to prove anything." And I believed her. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, the house looked exactly the same. The perfectly trimmed lawn, the familiar chandelier glowing through the window, Sophie's old BMW now replaced by a Mercedes. Mom opened the door with her usual enthusiasm. "You made it! Come inside, come inside. Sophie and Chase are in the living room." Sophie looked up from her phone briefly as I entered. Chase sat beside her, wearing a tailored suit, even though it was just Wednesday. Everything about him said hedge fund manager, polished, confident, expensive. Sophie had always been effortlessly beautiful, tall and composed, turning heads wherever she went. "Hey, Em," she murmured, barely looking up. "Long time." "Hey," I said, setting my bag down. "How's the wedding planning going?" "Oh my gosh, it's insane. Everything good for next June is already booked. Mom's been helping." "Thank God." Chase added lightly. It's basically a full-time job, Sophie sighed. Scrolling through her phone, Dad appeared from his office, glasses perched on his nose. Good to see you, Lily. How's work? It's good, I said. You still working with computers? Yes, Dad. Good, good. That's steady work. Hopefully the benefits are decent. Sophie smirked. Dad, she's a programmer, not a doctor. I doubt the benefits are that great. I could have told them that my compensation package included full health coverage, unlimited PTO, stock options, and a personal finance advisor. But instead, I just said, they're fine. My base salary alone was $700,000, excluding bonuses. Thanksgiving Day arrived in its usual chaos. Mom had been cooking since morning, refusing help while complaining about the effort. Sophie barked orders at Chase, directing him to move furniture and set the table. I helped quietly, mostly staying out of the way. Aunt Laura arrived around noon with her husband, Uncle Dan, and their 2 kids, Ryan and Ava, both spoiled and used to getting their way. Lily, Laura exclaimed, kissing both my cheeks. Still single, I see. Don't worry, dear, the right man will come along. You just have to put yourself out there more. Try one of those dating apps. I'm not really looking right now, I said politely. Oh, nonsense. No one wants to end up alone, she laughed, turning to Sophie. Now, tell me everything about the wedding. I retreated to the kitchen. Dinner was served at 3 p.m. We gathered around the long dining table, Mom and Dad at the ends, Sophie and Chase with Laura's family on one side, and me wedged between Ryan and Uncle Dan. Conversation, as usual, revolved around Sophie. There was turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, green bean casserole, and the untouched cranberry sauce. So, Chase, Dad began, Sophie mentioned you just got promoted. Less, sir, Chase replied modestly. Managing director now. It's a big step. That's excellent. You two are really building a life together. We're proud of you. Thank you, Mr. Reed, Chase said, smiling as Sophie squeezed his hand. We're looking for houses in Westchester. 5 bedrooms, good schools. We want to start a family soon. Mom's face glowed. Oh, Sophie, you'll be such a wonderful mother. Watching them, I felt no resentment, just curiosity. I studied my mom's face, wondering if she'd ever looked at me that way. I couldn't recall. Dad beamed at Chase. You're a good man. Sophie's lucky to ha. Chase smiled modestly, but I caught the subtle smirk, the look of someone who knew he was their perfect son-in-law. Laura leaned forward. What's your budget for the house? Between $1.5 and $2.5 million, Chase said casually. The table hummed with approval. And the wedding? Laura asked. Sophie laughed. We're thinking around $250,000. Dad's helping, and Chase's parents are contributing too. $250,000 for one day. I thought of the scholarships that money could fund, but kept the thought to myself. You deserve it, sweetheart, Mom said warmly. It's your special day. The conversation returned to Sophie's future, her wedding, her home, her perfect life. I might as well have been invisible again. Finally, Uncle Dan turned to me. So, Lily, how's work? The table quieted, everyone waiting politely. It's going well, I said. Still programming? Dad asked. Yes. That's nice, dear, Mom added, her tone implying the conversa. Sophie laughed. I'm sure she's doing fine with her little apps or whatever. Little apps? My platform processed millions of transactions across 4 continents. Actually, I said, surprising myself, there have been some changes at work. Oh? Mom asked. A promotion? Something like that. Sophie took a sip of wine, already bored. Chase scrolled through his phone. I sold my company, I said quietly. Silence. Dad frowned. Your company? I thought you worked for someone else. No, I've owned it for 7 years. It's called Supply Sync, a supply chain management platform. I founded it and served as CEO. Sophie froze. Wait, what? I started it in college. We now operate in 8 countries. I sold my company to Innovix Technologies. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by Laura's fork hitting her plate. I took a slow sip of water, letting the moment hang. The sale was for $280 million, I said calmly. After taxes and expenses, I cleared $160 million. Laura blinked. I'm sorry, did you say millions? Yes, I replied. That's impossible, Sophie gasped. You're a coder. You live in a small apartment and drive a Honda. I still have my Honda, I said evenly, but I also bought a Lexus. And the apartment isn't small, just minimalist. I recently purchased a home in Brooklyn. Chase stared at me as though I'd spoken another language. Brooklyn, those houses start at… Mine was $4 million, I interrupted quietly. Waterfront, 5 bedrooms, 3-car garage, paid in full. Sophie went pale. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly. How, Lily? When did this happen? I've been developing Supply Sync since I was 21, I said. 7 years now. We've had major clients for 5. I never mentioned it. No one ever asked. I looked directly at Sophie. You once told me I was doing fine with my little apps. You weren't wrong. I was better than fine. Dad had gone completely pale. But why didn't you tell us? He asked. We're your family. Because you never wanted to know, I replied. Every time I brought up my work, you changed the subject to Sophie. Every success I had went unnoticed. Every visit home, I was invisible. My voice stayed calm. So I stopped trying to be seen. I built something extraordinary without your approval, support, or even awareness. Sophie slammed her hand on the table. You let us think you were struggling. You made me feel sorry for you. I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Did you, Sophie? Did you ever actually feel sorry for me? You never thought about me at all. She shot back. We would have helped you if you needed it. I never needed it, I said simply. That's the point. While you got private school, cars, vacations, and Yale, everything handed to you. I was working 80-hour weeks, teaching myself everything, and earning every cent. Chase was still typing on his phone, glancing up in shock. She's not lying, he muttered. Lily Reed, founder of Supply Sync. It's all over Forbes. They called her one of the most successful female tech entrepreneurs under 30. Laura snatched his phone, reading rapidly. There are photos. Lily at conferences, meeting with… Oh my God, is that the governor? Mom was crying now, mascara streaking down her face. Lily, sweetheart, why would you hide this from us? We're your family. We love you. Do you? I asked quietly. The words came out sharper than I intended. Did you love me when you forgot my birthday 3 years in a row? When you spent $200,000 on Sophie's education, but nothing on mine? When you forgot my Christmas stocking because you didn't expect me to come home? That's not fair, Dad said softly. Isn't it? I countered. Tell me one thing about my life that's not work-related. Name my best friend, my favorite meal, anything that shows you've paid attention in the past decade. Silence. Sophie's face flushed as tears filled her eyes. You're doing this to hurt me. You waited until everyone was happy for me, and then you stole my moment. I couldn't help but laugh, genuinely this time. Your moment? Sophie, every moment has been yours. Every holiday, Every dinner, every family event for 28 years has revolved around you. I didn't plan any of this. I'm just done being invisible." "You're jealous," Sophie shouted. "You've always been jealous." "I'm not jealous of you, Sophie," I said softly. "I feel sorry for you." That stopped her cold. "What? Everything you have was handed to you. Your schooling, your jobs, Dad even pulled strings for your interview. You've never had to struggle, prove yourself, or wonder if you could succeed on your own. And now you're marrying someone well off and planning a life that's comfortable and predictable. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not remarkable. It's just expected." Sophie lunged at me, but Chase pulled her back as she shouted curses. Laura fanned herself dramatically. Mom wept into her napkin. Ryan and Ava sat frozen. Finally, Dad spoke. "Lily, I think you should leave." I stood, exhausted. "I think so too." I gathered my coat and bag. As I reached the door, I looked back. Sophie furious, my parents stunned, Laura radiating envy. For I see myself, I know my worth, and it's not about the money. It's about building a life I'm proud of, entirely on my own. Then I left. Outside, Sophie's voice was screaming behind me, Laura's high-pitched shock, Mom pleading with Dad to do something. I got into my Lexus and drove off. Before I even reached the highway, my phone blew up. Sophie calling, leaving furious voicemails. Mom sobbing, asking me to come back. Dad sending messages about family loyalty. Even Aunt Laura called, likely hoping for an investment in her latest scheme. I blocked them all. 3 days later, Sophie emailed me. It was long and emotional, full of blame and self-pity. But one line stood out. "Mom says you bought that house with Dad's money, that you must have stolen it from the family business somehow." I laughed out loud in my new living room, looking out at the Charles River. They still couldn't believe it, that the daughter they ignored had achieved more than they ever imagined. I didn't reply. A week after Thanksgiving, my lawyer called. "Your family's attorney reached out," he said. "They're claiming you owe them $5 million as repayment for their investment in your upbringing." I smiled. "Tell them no, and if they contact me again, I'll file a countersuit for mental anguish and child neglect. I have every record proving what they spent on Sophie versus me. I'll make it public." We never heard from them again. Christmas passed quietly. I spent it in Aspen with friends from the tech world, people who saw me for what I built, not who I was related to. We skied, shared wine, and celebrated success, while my phone stayed blissfully silent. In January, I received a text from my cousin Ryan. "Hey Lily, I know things are weird, but what you did was incredible. You inspired me. I'm going to work hard and build something of my own. Thanks for showing me it's possible." I stared at the message for a while before replying. "Thank you, Ryan. If you ever need guidance or just want to talk, I'm here. Build something you're proud of." Maybe something good would come out of that Thanksgiving after all. Sophie got married in June. I wasn't invited, but I saw the photos online. It looked perfect, exactly like she'd dreamed. 6 months ago, I launched a new company focused on AI-driven logistics, bringing along some of my best supply sync employees. Big investors are already interested. This time, I'm not working in silence. I'm speaking on panels, mentoring young women in tech, and sharing my journey openly. Last month, I was invited to speak at a Yale Tech conference. I almost declined, but then I remembered how proud my parents were of Sophie walking those same halls. So, I said yes. After my talk on turning invisibility into strength, a young woman approached me, nervous but determined. Your story made me feel less alone. I hugged her. You're not alone. You're going to do amazing things. Don't let anyone make you feel invisible. As she walked away, I realized this was better than revenge. This was purpose. My family still reaches out occasionally. Mom sends birthday cards now. Dad emails tech articles as if he's always cared. Sophie recently messaged to say she's pregnant. I don't respond, not out of anger, but because I've built a life that doesn't need their validation. I have friends who celebrate me, colleagues who respect me, and a future I've created with my own hands. I have peace. People sometimes ask if I regret that night. Maybe I could have handled it differently, softer, quieter. But then I think about the 9-year-old girl who watched her sister get a BMW while realizing she'd never be treated the same. That girl grew up and proved her worth, not to them, but to herself. I don't regret anything. I earned both my invisibility and my visibility. The money is great, but what matters most is that I finally see myself clearly. That's worth more than any fortune or their approval. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm visible to those who matter, including myself. At that Thanksgiving table, after I revealed everything and chaos erupted, my father just sat there silently, fork in hand, eyes fixed on his plate. He didn't defend me or them. He didn't apologize or congratulate me. He just stared, realizing too late that he had spent a lifetime betting on the wrong daughter and lost everything that truly mattered. That silence said more than any words ever could.